where exactly we are placed and what is this training all about. Okay. Okay. So hope you guys can see my Firefox screen, right? So if you actually go to Microsoft Cyber Security Reference Architecture, okay, and if you look at the first page, okay, so you can actually choose any of these, okay. So, but if you actually click on this, download and update, okay, or else if you, even if you don't want to open this, that's fine, but just take a second, it's downloading. Okay, I think that's not opening, but what I'll do is I'll just click on this images, okay. So this is a very popular thing, most of you all already know, okay. But if I actually look at this and click on this, so I think, hope you guys can look at the screen. So I think I had a better image, but that's fine, okay. So what do you actually look at it here? The entire IT and the zero trust part, right? So it involves multiple products. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll rather than show this picture, I'll do it on my own. Okay, don't worry. So I can see my whiteboard here, right? So let me share my whiteboard. Okay, I'll start off with Entra ID. Okay, so what actually happens? The thing, if you buy an Office 365 license, okay. So let me just check the chat. Okay, so hope you guys may have seen my whiteboard, right? Can anyone confirm in the chat? Okay. So if you actually buy any Office 365 license today, okay. So say for example, Office 365 is a cloud-based service, right? So if you buy Office 365, okay, so you actually get Azure AD free. Okay. Earlier it was called Azure AD. Now it's renamed to Entra ID. So what is Entra ID? Entra ID is basically IAM. Okay. So it is Identity and Access Management Solution from Microsoft. So we basically, in layman terms, it stores usernames and passwords. Okay, but that is something new. Okay, so if you started off with cloud native, that is usually you have with Office 365. When you say Office 365, you have email. Okay, so of course you have SharePoint. With that comes OneDrive, and with that comes Teams. Okay, so everything comes under Office 365 license. Of course, if you want to add more features, you will actually need to buy an additional license. Okay, so with Entra ID, it is a basic service, right? And if you want to add more features, again, you have P1 and P2 license for Entra ID. Okay, we'll talk about those features later. But traditionally, if you actually look at it, people always moved from Exchange on-premise solution, right? Exchange is an email solution, which they had it on-premise. So back in 2011, when Office 365 announced, if you have looked at it, for next 4 to 5 years, we always had Exchange to Office 365 projects in most of the companies because Exchange was being migrated to the cloud-based online services. So they had to be email inboxes, SharePoints, and everything were actually being migrated. But one thing was always there. There was an Active Directory in the on-premise, right? Even today, we have every company, every organization, every big enterprise has an local Active Directory where users, passwords, printers, almost entire organized resources were residing in Active Directory, right? So we back in order for Office 365 to be used, right? There needs an identity. Okay, so if you had joined the organization back in 2005, say for example, you're user one, okay, this particular user one hat doesn't really make a difference when it comes to Office 365 because Office 365 will never recognize a user that is in your on-premise, right? So, and hence, there was always a synchronization of users from the local on-premise Active Directory to Entra ID. So there is something called AD Connect or Entra ID Connect. Earlier it was called as DIR Sync, which is directory sync. But users were being synchronized from your local Active Directory to Entra ID. Okay. The reason why, because unless you have a user here, you'll not be able to use any of the cloud services that Microsoft hosts, especially the M365 resources. So one of the M365 resources, your Office 365. Okay, so if you joined an organization even in 2005, your user needs to be synchronized here, and you need to be licensed. The important part is the license. You need to have an Office 365 license, and as soon as you're licensed, your email inboxes, your space, everything, actually your entire ID gets created. So this is your fundamental part. Okay, so Entra ID, the meaning of Entra ID is where your users and users are there, and your users need to be licensed appropriately for respective services. Okay, so whatever services you use, say for example, if you need Yammer, right? So if you need Intune, or if you need some Defender for Endpoint license, or if you need OneDrive, okay, or any other resources, Yammer, Vivo, Glint, there's nearly 25 services, right? So for any of those services, your user ID should be present in Entra ID and you should be licensed. So that is a basic thing. So Entra is a central part for allowing access or denying access to any of the cloud resources. So that's one example, right? So say for example, if you have thousands of users, you're still here. Okay. So that is what is happening from 2014. Okay. So we always now coming back to the endpoints. Okay. We now always had a machine, a Windows machine that used to join to Active Directory. Okay. So this is actually called AD join, right? Your machines are AD join so that you can authenticate your Windows machines, your laptops to your Active Directory. Okay. The way you actually do it is typical domain notation, domain backslash, and then username, right? So that is it. As long as you have connectivity to your Active Directory, you are able to authenticate the machine. Now, this, in addition to that, we again had a on-premise device management tools like SCCM. Okay, so SCCM always was in on-premise. Okay, nowadays we have moved some of the components to the cloud-based, but still, if you really need SCCM proper connection, you might probably need a VPN solution today, right? Or a VPN, or if you are in an on-premise environment, if you are connected to your office network, you will connect to SCCM and for getting any of the resources. Okay, so now take the same machine. Okay, say for example, you did a join to Entra ID, which is your cloud-based. How do you join? Can you join manually, automatically, silently without user knowing? We'll all discuss in future classes. But say, for example, you take this machine and join to cloud-based Entra ID. Okay. So now this is exactly called as a hybrid AD, right? Hybrid Entra ID machine. So now the status of this machine is hybrid Entra ID, or you can say hybrid join machine. So for these hybrid machines, what are the advantages that we have? Okay, so of course, doesn't really make a difference because as long as you're hybrid AD join, the only good thing is you'll actually get seamless access to Office 365 or any cloud-based solutions. Okay, so here in Entra ID, this Office 365 is automatically integrated. Okay, so the Entra ID can have a single sign-on to multiple cloud-based application, be it, say, for example, Salesforce. Okay, it can have Salesforce, it can have SAPs, right? So you can have Slack. Okay, so you can have Slack, SAP, Workday. Okay, so any of these, okay, so can be single sign-on, LinkedIn. You can have any of the cloud-based application as a sign-in mechanism. Okay, so you can establish an SSO with Entra ID and then redirect the authentication to Entra ID, and that will enable to do a seamless single sign-on to all of these cloud-based resources. That is exactly what happens if your device is hybrid AD join. Okay, so you might have observed if your device is an hybrid AD join, you will not be asked for a password if you log into your email. But if your device is only Exchange, on-premise domain join, but your email is an Exchange Online, you will be prompted for username, password, and also the MFA if it's required. Okay. So where are we now? Okay, so we are now having a machine which is hybrid Entra ID join, SCCM managed, and AD join. Okay, so if you are right now working in most of the SMB business and SMB projects, people really want to now to cut off these two things. Okay, so it's not mandatory or it's not required or it's not requirement from Microsoft where they're asking you to remove SCCM or Active Directory. Okay, but their recommendation is to have a 100% cloud-based solution where your identity provider is Entra ID and your device management solution is Intune. Okay, so basically what Intune with respect to a Windows machine is simply a device management tool which allows you to do two things, a seamless device provisioning and a policy deployment tool. So added to that, it'll do an application deployment tool. So if you have a mission, when we say device management, it does three important things, the device provisioning, the app deployment, and the policy deployment, which is nothing but your settings deployment remotely over the cloud. So we don't require, what is a good thing about this is we really don't require the device to be connected to a corporate network or VPN or any of those things. The devices can always, no matter where they are, whether they are at home or in India or any other country, they are seamlessly able to connect to Intune's in the cloud. So what, uh, that's fine. Okay, so what do we require in Intune? Okay, again, it's still the same thing. Intune again is all interrelated and everything with Entra ID. For Intune to work today, if you don't have anything in your office environment, okay, say for example, you are using Google Workspace or Amazon Web Services and Amazon Workspaces, something, okay, different identity, Oracle Identity Manager, you don't have any Microsoft products, but you suddenly decide to go and start choosing, okay, I'll go ahead and do Intune. The main thing that you actually get, again, you'll get an Entra ID free. Okay, you'll get an Entra ID tenant because even for Intune, a person who is enrolling the device needs to be licensed with Intune. And in order for that, this particular user one should be Intune licensed. So whichever service that you are consuming, that user should be licensed. Okay. So again, there is again something. Okay. So if you're talking about autopilot service, okay. So it's again, if it's completely new, that's fine. I don't want to touch upon that. But again, if you want to expand this, this is fine when it comes to device provisioning. And this is great when it comes to app deployment. Nowadays, app deployment has completely changed in Intune. There are hardly any limitations now. They even bigger companies, banks, everyone using Intune for app deployment. Okay, so we have Windows Update for business, patch management is again taken care with that kind of policies where we have Windows Update for business deployment services. Okay, a new thing. Finally, of course, the policies, almost the entire GPO policies that you have today, almost 90% of your GPO policies can be actually done with Intune. at least the GPUs that are required for Windows 10 and Windows 11 based on the Nest and the any and all those all the any the ISC standards. Okay, so you don't have to worry because we have bigger banks. Almost every company, everyone actually now deploys settings, both security settings and non-security settings to almost all of your Windows 10 clients remotely or from Intune. Okay, so GPO is really not needed. If someone is really there because of GPO, it means that they really did not do a proper research and they don't have a budget or they don't want to move away for other reasons. So where are we? Okay, so now again in Office 365, Entra ID and Intune. So in order for this to be secure, okay, in additionally, we have to again have a remote monitoring security tool. Okay, the reason why every company is now looking at for a defender for endpoint. So what is defender for endpoint? We usually call it as MDE. Okay, again, in order for defender to be used, this particular user has to be licensed with MDE. And where do you license the MDE? Again, here in Entra ID, you select the user and you license whatever he wants. So now you understand. So every user needs to be licensed in Entra ID for everything to be consumed. That's the first checkpoint. Not just that, okay? Any other license. If you want to use Microsoft Loop, Microsoft Viva, yeah, like the previously Yammer, simple Teams, okay? So you may have Teams license and the Teams premium license. Right, you can have exchange with 25 GB space, even you can have exchange with 1 TB space. So those again licenses can actually be decided and assigned there in the Enter ID. So again, you may have Intune Pre1 license and Intune P2 license. Okay, so it's everything decides on what kinds of license and what kind of service and features within that particular product you assign. So this is your MDE. Okay, so what is basically MDE? Traditionally, you can simply call it as an antivirus or anti-malware. That is your traditional antivirus. Yeah. Now in today's world, we really don't depend on definition based scanning devices. So previously, if you already used Windows machine, if you're a home user, like you have laptops, right? So you have laptops and you have machines and you download some McAfee or any antivirus and you update the definitions, right? The definitions are downloaded from McAfee or any other semantic, and then they are scanned against your flash drives, USB drives, or your hard drives. So that really doesn't work in today's world, right? It's now 2024. People really don't, the hackers don't focus on the devices based on definition. Say, for example, you catch a malware. So first of all, companies like McAfee and Symantec should understand that malware. It has to be viral. And then they calculate the hash and they update the definition. So when you download a definition, it means that you calculate the hash of the file, you download the hash of the file, and you scan the machine against the file-based scanning. So that file-based scanning is now gone, okay? Nowadays, no one really are worried about the file-based scanning because that is a part of the feature anyways. You're already giving it, okay? So if you look at the competition, the competitors for MDE, right? So if you look at it, the recent CrowdStrike, a very popular one, right? So Sentinel-1, everyone might be knowing Sentinel-1, McAfee, maybe Symantec, Sophos, okay? So many other Bitdefender, with CrowdStrike and Sentinel-1 being the very tough competition against the Defender for Endpoint. So if you look at the Gartner report, okay, so both Intune and MD are the market leaders, right? So there is no one. Okay, so now look it. I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll again put this. So we are talking about why should we even learn Intune, okay? And as many people have doubts, right? So just a second. This is okay. So if you look at Intune, Gartner, Magic, quadrant, right? So this is where, if you look at it, there is no competition at all. That's all I can say. Okay, so if you look at this picture here, this was back in when? This was in 2013, 10 years back. If you look at the endpoint device management or the mobile device management products comparison, if you look at this, we always had AirWatch, VMware AirWatch, and then Citrix and mobile, and this is mobile iron. And we had FiberLink, which was acquired by IBM, and then we had Good Technology. They again acquired by BlackBerry. And there were so many small players, if you look at it, right? So there was an Absolute Software, Landesk. Okay, so this was back very old. Okay, so now coming back, say for example, this was in 2017. So if you look at the 2017, within 4 years, right? Microsoft was still not that great. Okay, so the Intune was still in the visionary phase. Okay, so here I'm only speaking about the mobile device management. Okay, so mainly focusing on Android, iOS, and Mac. Okay, so VMware was still the leader, followed by IBM Mars 360, BlackBerry Good, and then Mobile Iron. The reason why I'm showing this Gartner report, right? Because the decision makers in any organization, like be it a CIO or the CISO, they actually they have good budget. If they have good budget, right? So they usually come and have a peek sneak view on what is happening here in Gartner report, right? So half of the decision makers compare their products, evaluate and check based on their business requirements. Okay, so this was back in 2017. Okay, so if you look at now in 2024, so what is this? This is 2000. Okay, so I'll come back to this. This is it in, okay, so this is unified endpoint management. Okay, so we now don't have any competition. Okay, so there's only one market leader, which is Microsoft, and we do have VMware, and that maybe they claim that they're very strong in iOS and Mac. And people who write this Gartner report, one of the person is from ex VMware employee, so he has some bias and affinity, but that is fine. But people who have already used VMware Workspace ONE, or they can clearly state the difference between the Intune and the VMware Workspace ONE. So Ivanti was a separate product, right? So they acquired Mobile Iron recently. Okay, so clearly this one product is clearly washing away the market for all the rest of the customers. You see the Citrix is not even in picture, IBM is not even in picture. Okay, it's here. Okay, so Manage Engine is still here. Okay, so we really don't have any much competition, and that is exactly if you're already in the company you're all working, you already know that half of your projects are migrating from VMware Workspace ONE to Intune, Citrix to Intune, IBM to Intune. Okay, so that is one of the major projects that you will get. And people who are already with SCCM, again, they're either do co-management with SCCM when it comes to Windows machine, or they are migrating from SCCM to Intune. Okay, so these are the things. Now, second, I'm talking about the Defender for Endpoint, the second product in our training. So if you look at this, again, there are so many security products in the industry, but CrowdStrike as of today, yes, it stands much higher than the other products. So if you look at one, again, it's Microsoft, SentinelOne, CrowdStrike. These are still the top leaders, okay? Palo Alto Networks is there, and then so forth, all of these things. The rest of the products, okay, if you look at it, okay, so eventually by looking at this, at least by looking at the history, if Microsoft enters into some of the products or any product suite or any technology, any domain, I think they are clear, they'll have good support, and they'll have their different licensing scheme, their budget, their discounts that they offer to the end customers clearly takes precedence for most of the existing organizations, and it's easy for them. Okay, because again, why are they now being enforced to start using Defender for Endpoint? Okay, so what is happening? Another project, if you go to any of the companies like Infosys, Wipro, TCS, all of the projects, the bigger projects that you'll see is migrating from CrowdStrike to Defender for Endpoint. Because every year, every couple of years, every 3 years, they'll get into renewal stage, right? They're about to renew Sentinel-1 every year. Okay, so they'll definitely have projects, and when we're about to renew CrowdStrike, Sentinel-1, or any other products, they'll actually compare the budget. So every IT has a budget, every team has a budget, and CISO would always look at saving the money. Okay, so when you actually look at allocating a budget, they would now, because Microsoft pitch, the way Microsoft pitches is with one single M365 license, which they already have. Okay, I'll tell you, most of the companies already have M365 license. The Defender for Endpoint is already covered, the basic version. All they need is another $6 or $10. If they just buy with $10 per user, they would actually get the complete Defender for Endpoint license. And if I want to have a CrowdStrike license, I have to pay $30 or $28. So which one would obviously, because it is a $15 difference for one user. Imagine if there are 10,000 users in your organization. Besides all that, we have amazing integration capabilities. Here with, if you have Defender for Endpoint, without again, how do you sell? Okay, so how do you sell? Defender for Endpoint is easy to sell, okay, because you don't have an agent, you don't have to install an agent, you don't have to maintain an agent. The entire CrowdStrike issue that you see in the downtime, the biggest things that happened 5 to 6 months back was simply because there was an agent issue. Okay, so Microsoft claims that we don't have any agents. Our Defender for Endpoint is built in within your operating system. We don't have to do anything else. How do we onboard? A simple onboarding with Intune. Every device that is enrolled with Intune is automatically onboarded with Defender for Endpoint. So management is easy. Reports are easy. Console is very single. With single endpoint console, you actually get multiple products. Okay, so that is again, because if you are not heard of the solutions like Defender for Endpoint, because we are only talking about Defender for Endpoint, we also need to defend the other cloud-based products. Okay, so if you look at this, I'm not sure if you can see this. This is exactly the cyber security reference architecture I was actually talking about, right? So this is what usually the decision makers and the people actually look at it. Okay, the reason is your entire, if you're looking at a higher experienced jobs and projects, right, you should understand this. Okay, in the entire picture that I shared, the only thing that we discussed there was this one, identity and access management. Okay, if you look at this part, and here we talked about the left hand side, if you can see my mouse here in the clients section. Okay, this part, which is your Defender ATP, Secure Score, and Threat Analytics. This is one product. Management of Windows clients, be it Android, iOS, and thing. We're talking about the Intune, MDM, and MAM. Okay, so this entire thing is what we are going to study in this course. Along with that, little bit of identity and access management solution. Here, of course, yeah, we'll talk about Windows Hello for Business, the privileged access identity, okay, all of these things. Okay, so this, and again, coming back to, if you really want to shape up your career into M365, right? So I'll talk about again further, okay? So if you can see my screen again. So we are here talking about I'm sharing my whiteboard. Hope you guys can see. Okay. So here we are talking about the endpoints here, right? So we have in any infrastructure, in any company, what do we have? We have, of course, a directory like Active Directory. We have Entra ID. So Entra ID and the users needs to be protected. And for this, we have a separate product called as Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity. We say MDI. It's again a different product. And of course, Office 365 also needs to be protected because we have spam, we have emails, we have data in SharePoint, data in OneDrive. Okay, we also have to look at the DLP part of it, right? So DLP, when I say DLP, actually again, DLP works with your Defender for Endpoint here. So the DLP functionality of Office 365, which is in Purview, people heard of Purview? So Microsoft Purview is the biggest of the security product that we have. So though MS Microsoft Purview is again takes care of the DLP part of it. Okay. So and the sensitive labeling. Okay. So we have threat protection, basically data and the threat protection. See, every data is either stored in Office 365 or in your laptop. You can get an attachment in an email, right? What is the point of managing and protecting everything if you are able to copy that security at email or high confidential attachment to a USB flash drive? So there is no security, right? So we have to block that. So what is the point of uploading the same attachment to your Google Drive? So if you do that, if you allow that in your organization, there's no point of investing so much in a tool in security, right? So every data in your laptop should be monitored. Every action in your laptop should be monitored, and the only tool that can be monitored is MDE. So back to what I was saying, MDE is not just a anti-malware, anti-scanner or anything, okay? So it is a live monitoring tool that monitors every action on your laptop. So basically it's always connected. There is something called live protection. Okay, and they have given various names across to it, but a very common name, what is MD? MD is nothing but your EDR tool. So you go back to your company or anyone, you are asking what is your EDR tool, they'll tell you Sentinel-1 or anything, okay, MD or CrowdStrike. But EDR is nothing but endpoint detection and response. Okay, so we have to detect and we also have to respond automatically. There should not be any person or any human in being to see and monitor everything. Of course, you will have your security operations team. Your SecOps team is always sitting in your monitoring all of these actions in your enterprise. But if you have spent some money on a tool, it is expected that at least the most common threats and actions that the end users perform should be mitigated. And for that reason, we are all, every company is spending money to CrowdStrike and all, right? So these are all automatically blocked. Take a file and upload to Google Drive, will get a message, Defender for Endpoint has blocked this action. Take a important confidential file and put it in a USB drive or anything, you'll get a message, this action is not permitted by your administrator. Okay, so all these actions can be protected because nowadays, if you look at it, the endpoint device management the companies are looking for is not focused on deploying applications and deploying patches. That is just one part. Okay. So if you look at any of the interviews today, because I talk to many people, they will look at people who have good skilled in real security. Okay. When I mean security, they talk to the security people. They understand what is PKI infrastructure. They understand what is certificates. They understand threats and vulnerability managements. So here, talking about Defender for Endpoint, it is not just uh, the malware scanner. It also has a vulnerability management capability. Okay, so your Qualys. Okay, so what the way Microsoft sells, right? You can just have one Defender for Endpoint license, which you already have. You will get rid of Qualys. You will get rid of CrowdStrike. And if you have Intune, you can get rid of your VMware Workspace one. You will get rid of JAMF. You will get rid of any of the MDM providers. You can manage Windows, iOS, Android, Mac, Google Chrome, Linux, all with one tool, Intune. And you can manage all of the security of this MDE. MDE manages all of these platforms, iOS, Android, right? So Linux, macOS, and also Windows. Okay. And with Entra, you don't have to buy another product. And since you already have M365, you don't have to buy much of the money. Okay. So now we'll talk about what is exactly this M365. If you look at M365, why? Because we are talking about M365. M365 is one big license. It covers the entire Office 365. It has Intune. It has MDE. Okay, we'll talk about MDE, MDI, Defender for Identity, Defender for Cloud Apps. Okay, I'll talk about this later. So Defender for MDO, Defender for Office 365. The main important thing, you also have Windows 10 and 11 licenses along with that. So everything is subscription based. Everything you'll get it in one single license, which people already have. They already have E3 or E5. The only problem is not every company is leveraging the entire feature set or entire product set of M365 license. Okay, so either have business premium. Small people, small companies with less than 300, they have business premium, but anything above 500 endpoints, people already have E3 or E5. Okay, so they're not really using it. Okay, they're not really at all using it. So that is what we are talking. Okay, so mainly in our course, we are talking about Intune and MDE. Okay, again, why? Why do we need Intune and MDE? Is again the popular uh, thing in the market is people already know Intune. Okay, the only thing is they wanted people who already know Intune and already worked on MDO because it's a long-term projects. These migrations and these things, right? They're existent for a long time, and you will continue to have it because it's not like one day. It's not a one-time project and you'll forget it because service-based companies will always get projects migrating to Intune and Defender for a long time, for next 10 years, right? It's a unique skill that people require at this moment, and the mindset should be 100% cloud-based. They can't sit and work with traditional mindset and a traditional old organization. We have huge on-premise presence. Okay, so that is not going to work if you're totally based on things. So by actually looking at this, just give you a second. I'm just going to show you how actually the today's jobs are there, right? So just a second. So if you actually look, this is my this is the just LinkedIn page. Okay, so if you look at any company, okay, go to just search for Intune. Okay, so if you look at any Intune, most of the jobs, okay, so you may not already be present. So I'll talk about different kinds of this one, right? So we'll talk about mm, different scenarios that we have. Okay? So we'll talk about say for example, UC architect. I know. So there's a Mac specialist who's asking. I know. Okay. This is. I don't know why is this taking as. Okay. So if you actually look at it, say for example, most of the companies are actually looking for things like, OneDrive, online applications, okay, and Entra ID. Okay, this is these are the people who might probably using JAMA for this moment, and they are probably continuing JAMA for macOS and also Intune. Okay, so they are actually looking for a conditional access, group policy management. It can be a multiple mix of these things. Okay, so if you look at any Intune architect, right? So they are into HLDs and LLDs of SCCM, UEM, Intune. Okay, and then coming to Intune specialist. Okay, so they'll probably asking for device compliance, endpoint protection. So endpoint protection is nothing again, it's the same thing, okay? So basically what you search, if you can search whenever you have time, but in addition to the traditional things that we will actually be discussing, it is not just MDM and MAM, we'll also be discussing about the Intune is again, as I said, the course is 80% of will be Intune, but whatever you need to know for an interview to be comfortable when it comes to the Defender for Endpoint. So basically, you will be able to manage the complete Defender for Endpoint and Intune in this course. Okay, so that is all I wanted to say. So the again, one second. So how are we organizing? Okay, so looking at this. I'll if you have any questions, you can just put that in the chat. I'll just answer all those questions. So basically, when it comes to environment, how are we actually studying? Everyone should have their own labs, at least test machine. So I prefer to have at least one Windows virtual machine. Okay. So as you all know, we can all have Intune free subscription, cloud-based subscription. You can have even E3, E5, M365 trial versions. And if you already have companies working, you can use them. If you already have customers with them, you can use them. People who are new to Intune, I would highly suggest to have a trial version because there's no, so you don't have to attend a training or a class if you don't have a goal. Unless you are able to sit for all the 25, 24 classes, 20 classes to 24 classes that I plan, and follow up, practice, read and learn with some commitment, I would suggest them to join. Okay, simply because uh, you are free in the weekend, you have some money to join, you are some motivated only for now, not for a long term, I would not suggest you to join and waste your time. Okay, unless it fits your career plan. Okay, to whom it is applicable. People keep asking the same question, right? So to whom it is applicable is it is applicable for anyone with basic to advanced. Okay, people who already have L2, L3 level of Intune experience, no, it is not for them. I'll definitely not be covering the advanced topics or graph APIs, all of those things, report fetching, okay, data warehousing, partial. We will not be covering anything related to advanced Intune and even the Defender endpoint, the KQL queries and all. Will not going to discuss all of those things. It is purely for those people who have 2 to 1 to 3 years experience to 8 years. Okay, if not, I'm not talking about the overall, only Intune. Okay, so they can join if they need L2. People who don't know anything can join. I will cover very strong basics of L1 Intune and Azure AD and MDE, and we'll also talk about how to create labs. So what is really basically needed is one simple Windows virtual machine. If you have test mobile devices like Android, iOS, it's great, but everyone should be able to have a Intune trial tenant. They should be able to have something like this in the console, the one that you see, and you should be able to enroll the devices. Without enrolling the devices, you will never learn. Okay, like no, I have a Mac, I can show you. Okay, Windows, Android, I'll share the screen. Windows will have a virtual machine. Everything will be mostly the training will be 80% right now, right the way you see in the screen. Okay, whatever you see will be on the screen, labs and everything. I'm definitely not have much of the PPTs. There's no point in having PPTs. Almost all the trainings will be through whiteboard and the actual console, okay, and your virtual machines. So whether we create policies, navigating, okay. So I want you all to do that over the weekend time or the weekdays time, because uh, you can actually get hundreds of videos in internet. Okay, you will get it. There is no point again coming. Okay, so if you are already knowledgeable, you can sit and learn by yourself. You don't have to focus here. But if you need a structured, focused program where you are committed, you are understanding, you are talking back, you are asking questions, you are practicing, then join. Okay, so don't waste your money and weekend if you're not committed. So that's all I have. I don't have anything else to say. People who wants to join, I think I'll message the number. Please take down the number. Whoever is interested can talk to Amit. Okay, let me all know Amit's number. So if you don't know, the number is 95406 62806. Okay, I'll put that in the chat. I'll repeat. It's an India number. It's +91 95406 62806. Okay, that's a number. They can talk to him for the duration. Probably tomorrow or even next week, we are starting the classes. So that is the thing. Okay, I will stop sharing the screen. So someone asked, do we have the capability to manage Windows Server? No, Windows servers managing is not possible. But with Intune console, you can actually see Windows Server and the policies being pushed from the Intune policy to the Defender for Endpoint policy, and that through a Azure AD device group, the policies are pushed. So the Defender for Endpoint has the capability to manage Windows servers, not Intune. Can we have a hybrid lab setup? You can have it, but there's no point. Again, how does it adds value for a hybrid lab setup? Any complexity that you are adding, there is no difference. Okay, your device doesn't really adds value if you have a hybrid lab setup, because if you want to have a group policy, you can do very well with your local GPOs and plus Intune managed. The problem with hybrid group policy, you can easily do it. Okay, you need to have a complex environment where 3 to 4 virtual machines. I always had SCCM lab when I was doing SCCM training with hybrid AD join, all of these. Okay, those were difficult to manage. Resource consumption was high, and hence I had to decommission almost all of those on premise. My training would be simple, complete cloud based. If someone is interested in a SCCM environment, hybrid AD join, I will not be showing. Sorry, I don't want to invest time on anything on premise. So when we are starting training, either tomorrow might be the first class. Okay. MD 102 certification is covered. Yes, it is covered. Okay. So why? Okay. So if you look at the MD 102, earlier there was MD 101, right? So the MD 102 is typically 80% of 70% is Intune. Another 10% is Entra ID. The other 10% is Windows 365. The reason why Windows 365, you can see my screen, okay? The entire Windows 365 is part of the Intune console now, right? You will not have, if you go to tenant, where is it? Okay, so if you go to devices and device onboarding, Windows 365 is here. Okay, so every cloud PC or Windows 365 PC can be managed only from Intune. Okay, so if you look at this, okay, I don't know how fast I'm switching down. Okay, if you click on Windows 365, you will see, okay, so you will see Windows 65 policies, Windows 365 PCs provisioning. You can change your RAM, you can change your login, you can change as a licenses, everything right now here if I have the license here. Okay, and I'm sure, okay, people who already know Windows 365, it's very popular again. right? It's not priced high. Again, it's very low. The administrative effort is very plain and simple. People, all these contractors, third party people who join, they're just assigned a license. You go to Entra ID, if you join and license, you can assign a Windows 365 license, and within half an hour, your PC is ready. So you can sit in your home computer, log in with windows365.microsoft.com, and you will be able to log into your PCs. Okay, so that is how onboarding is easy, 100% secure. Okay, it is a browser based and a RDP based. You have an agent, Windows 365, sorry. So that is the reason why MD102 was added. Okay, another 10% of the questions you'll have with Windows 365. They want Windows 365 to be advertised. They're doing a huge marketing. Along with that, they're even adding that into a certification so that people know about Windows 365. Can you show me the syllabus? Okay, I will show you the syllabus. Just a second. Okay, so before that, share the number. I already shared. I'll put that in the chat. 1 second. I know on-premise AD and manage engine, and I can learn Intune and get a job. Of course, yes. If you already see, these are uh, this is properly suitable for people like who already have good identity and on-premise Active Directory knowledge. They have third-party tools like Ivanti, SCCM, Manage Engine, some knowledge on Workspace ONE. Okay, it's very good. Okay, they can go to advanced level. Okay, they can clearly upskill their career and get a good salaries, right? So any payment for class, I don't know what does that mean. So yeah, I can talk to Amit. So will we have recording videos? Yeah, the recording videos, we are recording each and every class, and every recording will be available to you for your lifetime. Okay, so it's view only recording, will not be able to download. So co-management, yes, we are covering co-management without really a SCCM lab. Okay, now you can understand how much of the concepts, and I have some demos where we can showcase what an SCCM admin should do in his co-management environment. See, co-management, so we have to talk about the concepts and the initial the challenges of co-management. So typically, if you pick up any organization, when they use say co-management, so what are the workloads are shared between SCCM and what are the things that are going to Intune? So it all depends on organization. So how you make a decision is depends on your entire IT admin's skill set. What are the new, what have you been using the SCCM for? So for all these days, where are your locations? How much of your bandwidth is required for all the data transfers, right? So all these are decision making things when it comes to co-management. Administration is easy. You just put the sliders and you add the collection of the devices, right? And everything is taken automatically. You'll not have any, there are no bugs in the product as of now, as of today. It's if there is any problem with something not working, it will be 80% your configuration and network issues, right? So we have to just figure out that. So apart from that, you just drag the slider and add the machines in the co-management. Your co-manage, as long as it syncs the policy within, okay, so it will onboard the device to Intune. Okay, and you will have registry changes in the co-management, and the agent will now understand, will have a different number, and now your co-management will understand going forward. I have to not deploy patches. Intune is a person who will now start deploying the patches, right? So these are the things that we'll see, okay? How agent understands what is the code that it calculates for each workload. Okay, so all those things we will discuss, okay? So fees, you can talk to things. So what are the recommended ways to replicate mobile device scenarios, testing device? You need to have a physical mobile device. Nowadays, the simulators don't work. Okay, so take your own device, nothing will happen. It's your lab, you're not wiping your device. Okay, so you can, if unless people are scared to enroll and unenroll the devices, you'll not learn Intune. So Windows 365, is it similar to AVD? No, AVD is a completely like a VDI environment where you will be managing gold images, you will be managing some kind of additional different policies, right? So Windows 365, you're not managing anything. You're only managing policies on the machine. You're not managing the virtual infrastructure. You're not managing the storage. You're not managing the OS itself. Okay, so no images, no networking, everything. Windows 365 is seamless. You'll have two options. One is hosted network by Microsoft, where you'll have unlimited internet, and you will have your own intranet. If you have ANC, which is your Azure network, this one connector, so connection. So your NIC card, right? So your virtual NICs can be connected to your Windows 365 machine. So even if you're a cloud-based machine, okay, even if you're a vendor or a contractor, your Windows 365 can be connected to your Azure network, okay, your managed network, so that you will be able to connect to your company's intranet resources. So all that is possible with Windows 365, and that's why it's very popular. So can we get demo videos? If you want to look at my previous trainings, you can ask Amit. He will probably share a couple of things. Okay, so now I'm sharing my screen for the syllabus. People were asking syllabus. Okay, so if you look at my screen, so uh, that is what we have. Okay, so so if this is 20 hour, approximately 20 hours, I know it'll cross 20 hours easily because many people keep asking questions. They bring in their own office and the company scenarios, testing labs and all. So, but if it was a seamless one to one to y'all communication, it will finish off in 20 hours. Okay. So for the first few days, we'll talk about licensing. Okay. So what is all about the mobile device management, and how are we talking about the cloud and the hybrid scenarios? So after COVID, you might have understood the importance of Intune. Okay, people, at least the IT companies. Okay, so earlier autopilot was a fun thing. Now autopilot is a serious part of every organization. I'll give you an example, Accenture, right? So Accenture have nearly 5.5 lakh devices. Almost 4.5 lakh devices now are Intune autopilot managed. All Almost all are provisioned with autopilot. People who are working in Accenture, if you have recently joined in last 3 years, you can confirm that. Okay, so that is how seamless. Cognizant is also the same thing. They're not joined to Active Directory. Cognizant laptops are not joined to local Active Directory. Almost all the new laptops are joined to Azure AD and Intune managed. Pure 100. Imagine like companies, such big companies are managing. Bank of America, okay, is another example. Goldman Sachs. All these are now 100% cloud based. Okay, they're not really dependent. I'm not talking about everyone. Okay, there are few critical within the same banks and the same financial organizations who are not 100% managed because they're still evaluating, but they've started. So we'll talk about yeah, the all these user groups, device groups, automated dynamic device groups that we create, and finally we'll have a lab setup for whoever is interested, whoever wants to really do it. I'll tell you how to do all this lab setup. Once you have the lab, that is when we can really start off enrolling the devices. Okay, we can talk about the normal AD and hybrid AD joint machines. So the real topics actually starts from Windows Autopilot. Okay, Windows Autopilot is one big topic that we are covering in detail. So we'll talk about co-management and coming back for iOS. Okay, enrollment of iOS is fine. Everyone knows, people who already are using company resources, they know. But Apple Business Manager and VPP, okay, the volume purchasing program is what we'll be discussing. So Android and Android enrollments, again, if you know, okay, people who are in Android projects, they know it is a big market. Why? Again, simple. The reason every shipping industry, every cargo, every shopping, IKEA, all these people, nurses, airlines, everyone uses Android devices. Colleges, schools, they're all using Androids and iOSs, right? So they need to be managed. You cannot allow a school kid on an iPad to use YouTube, right? We need to have some policies. You need to block, you need to remotely monitor. So they cannot really go to Apple website and start purchasing their student applications. Doctors cannot, nurses cannot go and purchase the HIPAA applications. right? So these all need to be properly distributed, managed, monitored. Okay. So again, the defender for endpoint plays an important role here. Okay. Half of the Safari or the Google Chrome policies, if you're really Safari, right? So Safari has a web filtering, web content filtering. So we need to manage those policies using the ABM devices. So Android is a big topic where we'll discuss 5 to 6 hours. Same thing goes with Apple, 5 to 6 hours. The rest is all the other 6 to 8 hours, 8 2 hours is purely Windows. The rest is the miscellaneous topics about Defender for Endpoint, Entra ID, conditional access, compliance policies. Okay, all that we'll actually discuss. So Intune MAM, a popular one. Okay, none of your interview goes without properly questioning Intune MAM. People, according to me, people who understand Intune MAM, who understand conditional access, are the people who really understand Intune. Okay. So that is where if you want to judge and if you want to question people, because see, all these are self-explanatory. If I give you a console, people will start doing it. Okay. But the enrollment is still the basic fundamental concepts are missing. People really, uh, if I have 10,000 devices in my organization, which is managed by SCCM and AD, if your project manager comes and says, suddenly, can you move to Intune? Okay, so of course, people who have experience, it's fine because what is your first thought on how you actually bring those devices? Okay, so all these scenarios is what we will be discussing one by one. Okay, so it's not just traditional how to do. Okay, how to do is very simple. If you sit in a, if you just read a document, you'll understand. If you have a console, you'll understand. But the challenge is really how you tackle a real world problem. So that is, as I said, like, we'll start with security and defender for endpoint in detail. We'll talk about defender for endpoint, alerts, incidents, tamper protection, credential guard, all of these security policies. So this entire EDR, right? So we'll talk about even the baseline settings. The EDR is again the endpoint detection and response, this EDR tool, Intune MAM, and then finally, yeah. See, again, the good thing about learning Intune and MDE is it'll show you a career path to the entire M365. Okay. As I said, if you know MDE, Intune, and then Defender for Cloud Apps, MDI, and then Purview, right? The Defender for Purview. Tell me, for next 25 years, your jobs are safe. That's all I can ensure that one. When I say jobs are safe, it means that you will get some because one or the other company is using M365 E3 license. Everyone are using it. All you need to know is to some great detail. Okay, you should be able to communicate this product into the real-time scenarios and projects. Should be able to design and architect and solve. Okay, it's a solution. You need to be able to give a solution because see, product teaches you how to use a product. I mean, you learn a product, you know how to use a product, but you have to use the product and give a solution to your business use case in any organization, right? They have a challenge of data leak. Okay, you need to ensure that how you can actually leverage these concepts, if not this product, some other product. Okay, Microsoft might not have solutions for everything, so you should be able to understand that real world challenge and come up with something new, right? So they're not even most of the companies have so many third product products, right? Tanium is another product that does more things that no other Microsoft product does. Okay, so nowadays they are looking at Tanium features and then they're seeing how can I add those features in Microsoft. So that is what Microsoft is doing. So Zscaler, how many had heard of Zscaler? So Zscaler with one single product that Microsoft released last year, which is uh, the global secure access, global secure intranet access and internet access, right? These two products Microsoft has released, and with that, complete Zscaler market has come down. So imagine the Zscaler market was there for a long time. There are so many companies that they are using. Okay, so they were advertising very much, everything. Okay, now companies are just because You just need to pay $4 in addition to already the Entra premium license that you already have. So Zscaler, sorry, the global secure solution, the intranet and internet access is completely getting rid of your VPN. Your VPN market, it's a huge blow for the VPN market. Okay, so after this class, you can just go and check the impact of global secure access intranet and the internet access, two different products, okay, two different mechanisms in one single product. You look at how it has impacted, okay. Likewise, learning Microsoft products is never a loss, okay, so you will always win in the industry. So that is what we are covering. I'll come back to the questions. So patch management and OS deployment can be managed by Intune. Okay, so if you are looking at patch management, the way you're patching the devices for all these years, where you download the patches from Microsoft and some tool deploys the patches to the endpoints, here that will not work that way. Okay, so here or in the future, or Microsoft suggestion, the vision is your patches, your endpoint should directly connect to the internet and download. That is already happening even if you have an SCCM environment. See what happened during COVID? SCCM already has a functionality where if your primary server is not reachable, go to internet, yeah, as a fallback option. That is how what has happened during COVID. The same thing is happening in Intune. Okay, Intune only pushes the policies on when you can actually download updates. So Microsoft releases, say for example, second Tuesday, 13th or 12th of this month, and say for example, you suddenly want to deploy patches, you can actually push it back for 7 days or 10 days or 30 days. So that is the only policy that you can control when it comes to Windows Update for Business. So we learn a concept called as Windows Update for Business, where we are sending deferral policies to the endpoint, and endpoint understands and downloads the patches based on that policy. Okay. But what has Microsoft released is whatever the problem that people are saying is, I'm not able to control patches with a granular level. I'm not able to select a patch. I'm not able to deploy or put a lockdown or put a control on some major version upgrade like 21H2 or 22H2. I don't want to stop. So that is when Microsoft came up with another feature called as, you can Google it if you want. So it's Windows Update for Business Deployment Services. Okay, so that is again what we are going to cover as well. Okay, so in the updates part, we are actually covering that as well. So because that is enables you to do drivers also. Okay, so you can do driver patching also. So am I network engineer? Is it good for my IT career? Okay, so it depends, Shabir. So it's up to you. It depends how good are you in a network engineer? Okay. So what level of network engineer? So are you finding any issues, any challenges, any problems in your career where you can't define your right path on how to go? Then you can explore this. Okay. It's not bad. Okay. So what I'm saying is, if you have a network engineer and if you are into network space of firewalls, okay, IT, not just the help desk or any other, like, if you're into proxies, web application, firewall proxies, all those things, if you are into that kind of network infra, then it might help. It is helping you. Okay, so Defender for Endpoint is a part of the security team. Okay, might not be a network team. If you're into total network wiring, Wi-Fi, and all, then you need to rethink. Okay, so how to enroll? So please talk to the person. Okay, I'll put the number. Okay, one second. So any other questions? Since I'm working on a project that is going to use SCCM and Hyper or Hybrid AD joint, co-manager Intune, and my role will be managing the devices like Intune. I do have experience with SCCM, but when it comes to Intune, I'm trying to learn but production in order to understand my day-to-day responsibility. Therefore, by training helpful, of course, it will be helpful 100%. Who is this? Lavanya. So yes, Lavanya. So it will be helpful. Okay. So all you need to is focus, understand, follow the concepts. Because you already have a production environment. You'll not do, see, the way it actually works is, say for example, if you're testing some policies, Intune has around 10,000 policies. You really cannot test all those 10,000 policies. But all you need to understand is the policy flow, the policy creation, and where does it land on the system. Okay. All if you do it for 20 policies, you are done. You don't have to do it for all the 10,000 policies, right? Because you are already in the production environment. You know 80% of the flow you already know. What you need to know is how is Intune handling your co-management part and how is Intune completely. SCCM has no way connection to your iOS, Android, or Mac. So Intune is 100% responsible for managing your iPhone, Androids, and conditional access and Mac OS, or even in the personal phones. Okay, BOYD plays an important role, right? Every company can't issue phones. So you need to allow users to access emails, phones, Teams meetings, everything on their personal phones. At the same time, you also need to protect. You'll also need to protect not taking them the screenshots, no uploading attachments. All these things you need to protect, and everything will be done by Intune policy. If people who already are using Androids and iOS, at least Androids, and if they have enrolled the devices to Intune, if you are able to take a screenshot, it means that okay. If you already have company portal, it means that they are MAM. But if you're able to take a screenshots or attached, they have not implemented MAM policies. And almost every company should implement MAM policies. So I don't know what is called L3 topics. Okay, so it depends. Okay, so L3, mm, the RBAC and scopes are really not L3. Okay, so that's the basic L1, L2. Everyone should understand what is a LBAC or anything. So if you look at my screen back, okay, I have multiple courses that I take, but this is still L1 and L2. If you look at my security, separate M365 security, I cover all these products, Defender for Endpoint, including the server onboarding, the next gen protection, alert, decencies, AIR. AIR is automatic incident response. How do you onboard Defender for Mac, iOS, Android? And then we talk about cloud apps. And then all the SaaS applications, right? All the SaaS applications needs to be protected. You just cannot allow end users to start using any cloud applications they want in an organization. So compliance management, okay. So same thing goes with the compliance management product, okay. The e-discovery, the records management. So everything is somewhat related to this one, the data that resides, data at rest that is in your thing, okay. So when you're talking about Entra ID, okay, so we'll talk about, okay, I'm not talking about this is a different course, okay. So this is what I was talking about, the global security access, external identities, okay. So the Intune L3, L4 course, usually I cover something in detail. Okay. So if you look at this is what I cover. People who really don't understand security and security terminologies, I start off with more with a deep integration of defenders and then Intune. So, okay, there's a question again. Someone playing apps. Okay. So see, people who join Intune course here in our team, right? We are giving SSCM free training videos for them. Okay, so you can ask Amit. People who have already enrolled, we have SSCM recordings. People who are interested in SSCM, they can check the recordings because it covers in depth of the huge setup, OSD to patch management to inventory management. How do you create gold images? But if you are already there, want to refresh, you can do it. But SSCM is not a skill that you want to add on to your career if you are new. Okay, so if you're new to it, just forget it. It's a sunsetting product. Okay, Microsoft doesn't claim it, but they'll act that way. Okay, have you seen any updates in an SCCM server as of last 4 years? No, but have you seen Intune updates every week? Right, every week Intune is getting updated, but SCCM last 4 years they're just fixing the issues that big customers ask. Rest everything, no investment, no team, nothing. Okay, they're just fixing issues. So it's not a product that will go keep on improving. Okay. Uh, See, everything, if you look at it, there are so many other third things, right? So if the Defender for update for business reports, okay, so the Graph API part, okay. So you know the recently announced the Cloud API, Okay, in addition to the cloud API, we'll still talk about SCEP and as deployment of certificates. Okay, so the cloud labs, people who know already. Okay, so every topic, when I say L3, L4, that will be in great detail. Okay, how the policy lands, what is CSP, how does it come and stores in registries. Again, it might really not help. Okay, okay. So the reason is what you want to do. Okay, it is learn and keep it, learn and apply it, or learn and use it. Whether you want to use it, what is the point of learning a product in detail unless you are not using it? You can read, okay, you can read and learn and understand, but people who are interested, uh, agen- I have a separate focused people for this L3 and L4. People who really wanted to interested in coming to this class, I usually do that 3 times a year. I think we finished one in August. September. I think we'll start somewhere in January on detail course. Okay, people who have already attended my L1 and L2, I have asked them to work to do some real-time production environment for at least 6 months, learn something, have a constant policy learning time, and then come back here. For this, we'll learn the subject in detail. Okay, there's no harm. Of course, once you are there, okay, so you can either, it depends, okay, so you can always come back. People, if not here, okay, so somewhere they can enroll. If your company is providing from free training, okay, please don't miss these chances of learning these products, okay, if you are in this careers, okay. So migrations will be covered, the question. Okay, so when you say migration, what migration? For Android, iOS, Mac OS, there is nothing like migration, okay. So it is mm, straightforward migrations. Okay. So I don't think we can unmute Shubho. I don't know because this is in a different mode. This is like webinar mode. I don't have an